Welcome, you just tuned in to TTYL or not. I am so excited because we are sitting here with Candace Simpson. She is a millennial. If you had checked the previous episode 2 weeks ago, we talked a little bit about millennial with my mentor. And so, I mean, what else but to bring a millennial to the seat and really dug into some conversation about the state of the church, conversation around activism, conversation about faith, and conversation about educating and creating a new world.
Welcome to Theology Talk You Like or Not. I am your creator, curator, investigator, sometime instigator, but definitely a liberator, Rev to say. And for a few moments of your sacred time in this sacred space, I invite you to tune in as we talk good, talk back, talk loud, talk smack, talk life and love. Talk true, talk music, talk art, talk faith, hope, peace, joy, talk justice, talk God. Let's talk.
Well, let's get into the conversation. It is early here in Philly, and Candace has joined me from New York. I am so grateful that you have taken this trip to be with me, to sit in this chair, and just get into the conversation. Really relax. Our viewers are used to our folks now, and hopefully you've seen a couple of episodes of TTYL or not. And today you get to speak, or today we get to hear from a millennial. Candace, welcome. How are you?
I'm blessed and highly favored.
Yeah, she is.
No, I'm doing well. I'm great. I'm living. I'm happy. I'm at peace. I slept well last night.
Good. I am so glad to hear that. If you want to know what Candace is talking about, Candace had the opportunity to stay at Wheneverland, my home, which is a respite space. It's also an Airbnb. Check it out. It has its own Instagram. This is a shameless plug. in the middle of this segment, but I am so glad to hear that. That's basically the best feedback that I can get, that somebody can step into my home and feel at rest.
Mm-hmm.
So it was created for just that purpose. Yeah. Candace, let's just get into the conversation. This is Theology Talks You Like or Not. How do you define theology? What is your understanding of theology and your framework? How do you come to your work?
Theology is, to me, any talk about God or what God is doing, if there is a God. So lately my theology has sounded a lot like, what are you doing? It's been a lot of, what's the word? Theodicy. This question of like, if we have a good God, if God is powerful, if God is mighty, if God is strong, if God is deliverer, then why am I dealing with the nonsense and the tomfoolery that I'm dealing with today? And I think God is big enough to hold that. Like, people have questioned God for thousands of years, and God didn't die. Mm-hmm. You know, like, Job did it, Jesus did it. So many people have done it, have asked God, like, what are you doing, sis? Like, yeah. And God has not died. At least to me, I don't think God has died yet. God may have moved to a new neighborhood. God maybe doesn't get mailed to the same place, and you got to figure out like how to connect with God. But God's not gonna die because I have questions, and I think churches and believers are scared of people asking those questions. So, yeah, and then the people not well.
God didn't die. I understand what you're saying. In that phrase, in that statement. Can you dissect that a little bit for people to understand what you're saying in that phrase? Mm-hmm. What's happening when people in the quest or the fear to quest for God or questioning God?
I mean, even within the Bible, there are stories of people who are asking the same question, which is, have mercy. Like, why have you left me? Why have you left us? Why have you done this to us? And then a chapter later, God acts. Or 2 chapters later, you hear the voice of God. And I do think that there is a rhythm of God being silent. And I think it's okay for us to say, I don't feel God right now.
And referring to the Christian sacred text.
Right, yes. That's my context is the Christian sacred text. But there are so many stories of people asking, what the hell? And God showing up in a way that is unexpected. So I'm trying, the thing that keeps me here on this earth, the thing that keeps me from, burning everything down. And honestly, if I were to burn everything down, I'd be well within my right. But the thing that keeps me from doing that is knowing that I can look for God and find God and see God in places that aren't necessarily the church at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. That if I'm sitting on the subway and I see 2 children and they're like, playing their Switch together and they're doing, taking turns or like making up like hand games and like chants and things like I choose to see God in that. Like I choose to see divinity, to see wonder, to see majesty in those circumstances. Because if I'm just looking at what people have said God is, then that's not enough.
What? Please describe the God that people have said God was. The God that I don't want to make the assumption. Would this be the God that you were raised with, that you were given, that you were fed?
Well, no. But I think so. It's different to say. This is like the general understanding of God. So when I hear God, I have a lot of different reference points for it.
Okay.
I think I do think about church. Think about my personal church that I grew up in. But then I also think about how people have talked about God. So like, Westboro Baptist Church, who decides that they're going to protest somebody's funeral. Or like legislators and lawmakers and senators who say God doesn't believe in that trans people are not real. They think that God has said that.
Speaking for God.
Right.
God talk.
Right. And that's something that Zora Neale Hurston has said, which is that gods tend to behave like the people who made them. So it's kind of like this circle of, if I imagine a God who looks like me and I'm a white, cishet man who owns property and owns businesses, then I'm going to think that God favors that and that God wants more of that and less of everybody else. Not to say that everyone, but I mean, the general kind of, you have to intentionally read against it to not fall into that trap. Because that's the environment we're swimming in. Everyone that's what it means to be kind of captivated by the powers. So, but if I think that God is not that, if I think that God is, the elder who watches everything that happens on the street, the auntie who, a car alarm comes on, and she stands outside in her rollers to check to see what's going on, with care, not to be nosy, but like with care. Like I hope that everyone is okay. Like I think about, all the people who are making the world a better place, and for a particular kind of people. So yeah, there's so many. People often have, Santa Claus in the sky kind of image of like what God is, and I've not experienced God like that. And I don't know if I can. The Lord is working with me on this because if heaven is real and if I get to go, and that's who I see, and that's God, like, I don't know. I think I will be disoriented if that's what I see. Because for so long, I've not believed that that's the case.
What is your hope built on?
Nothing less. But Jesus' blood and righteousness.
Yeah, God.
Look, you gotta have a hymn in your heart.
I don't know why that's the only thing. That's what drew that out. Because there's this there's this, in the last segment we talk about hermeneutical suspicion a little bit. Like this but yet you still believe.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this possibility that this may all be fake. This ain't real. This thing that. Why still believe?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I believe because of the people. Like I don't. The thing that has been freeing, like I hear my pastor say often, is I don't have a hell or a heaven to put you in. And some people use that in ways that feel weird, but I don't. Like I've never been. I can imagine what it might feel like. I can imagine what I want to experience, but I don't know. I've not been. And I want to speak about things that I know. What I know is what I want.
Yes.
What I want is I wanted, if there is a heaven, there are, like everybody has a place to live. Everybody has fresh food that like tastes good. Like there's love, there's abundance, there's no jail, there's no prisons, there's no police, there's no, I don't have to pay rent.
Mm-hmm.
Like my student loans have been forgiven. Like, and if I think, okay, because if
this ain't heaven, y'all.
Look, if that loan gets me something up in heaven, if they send me an email, a text message, I'm just gonna get on the escalator, come back to Brooklyn, because I might as well be here. I might as well be here.
Yes,
I
get it.
But we don't know what exists. We just know what doesn't feel right now, and what are the solutions? What is the world that would make it so we're not experiencing that anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Some people call that Afrofuturism, or some people are like dreamers and like imaginative, and like there's a whole cohort, like there's a whole school of thought around imagining what ought be.
Mm-hmm.
For me, heaven is the mechanism by which I do that.
I think I read, and this is coming from Octavia Butler, a lot of, I'll say millennials, new age, like just black people are in the future, or black to the future, like this Afrofuturism, which is, I recently got into Octavia Butler last year. Sci-fi futurism was not my thing at all. But to see it from the perspective of black imagination, I'm all in it. I'm like, yes. Yes. And so bringing that even imagination to the church, to the faith, while creating your own heaven. And so tell me about Fish Sandwich Heaven, how that was built up. And I'm like, fishsandwicheaven.com. What is going on here? How is that birthed?
Well, I always had this obsession, this fascination with heaven. Part of that started through green pastures, and like there's this image of like the angels are at a fish fry, and I was like, oh yeah, because like if I'm gonna be in eternity, there better be like a fish fry, like
Listen.
So I always little barbecue
punch,
little punch,
Jesus juice,
yeah,
red velvet cake,
right. Look, keep going, sweet potato pie. That's what I want. So that was the genesis of it. But my favorite miracle is the feeding of 5,000, as it's described in the Gospel of John.
Yes.
So John, I think this is a miracle that happens across all of the Gospels, but John is the one that tells us that there's a boy involved. And the boy, because he was raised right, because he was, he had the most sense, because for whatever reason, he realized that he had something to offer.
Yes.
And he brought it to the community. And, we do ask children to grow way too fast. Feeding 5,000 people should not have been this child's responsibility. And I think there's something that this child was able to model.
Yes. That
when brought to, the community, it was an instruction of how we ought live. So, two fish and 5 loaves is a lot of food for one person. And, we don't know exactly how much or like what the portions were, but like it is a significant amount of food. So perhaps the intent was that he would share.
Yes.
And I think when we are sharing, when we are getting out of this myth of like black capitalism will save us, like it happens every year at the Rock Nation brunch. Like everyone's like, yeah, black excellence. I'm like, didn't Diddy just get in trouble for swindling Mace out of like thousands of dollars? Like that's not heaven. That's not how we get free.
Wow. Yeah.
So this idea of sharing and offering what it is that we have to the community. And maybe somebody wants it, maybe somebody can use it, maybe they don't. But, it's an indicator of how healthy a community is when we can share and when we can ask for what we need. Because some people are just struggling without feeling like they can ask, sis, can I just stay? Can I just stay over for the weekend?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was reading, this was a while back, maybe a year or two ago. I was reading this article about this new generation of a handful of black billionaires, and how this is still fairly new, in the 21st century, that we have a handful of black millionaires, and the newness of and also the fear of the scarcity fear, right? This idea of that you bring up of wanting to share, but coming from historically, black people of color have been impoverished, and you move into this new rank, new status in life, and we don't know how to exist in that space or how to share, or the fear of scarcity. Like, we get here to this point, and it's like I don't want to go back there. Is the fear? I don't know. And I don't want to speak for what's going on, but is that what you see is going on in the black community? Because there is we have a lot of black billionaires, and how they are choosing to share their wealth, how they're choosing to give back to the community. What's happening with this new generation of wealth in specifically black community?
Well, I don't have anything in common with billionaires. I really don't.
Okay.
I mean, the way my life is oriented is such that I check my balance whenever. Like, I mean, I'm always like, oh, dang, like, I did have that bill coming out. Or it is time for, like, I don't have anything in common with any billionaire, including black billionaires. And what connects us, sure, there is this fictive kinship, like, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're my sibling, like, you are mine, like, And no one hoards that much wealth without having exploited from someone else. And so people will kind of throw your scent off. They'll start a foundation. They'll start a charity. They'll do they'll build homes that people still have to pay in. Like they'll kind of show us, see, I'm like you, because here I am scooping greens on a plate. Like, I'm like you. Mm-hmm. And I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. I think because the way I envision the world, all of us will have our needs met. And there's enough in the world for all of us to have what we need. Like, there is enough stuff. There's enough houses. There's enough land. There's enough for all of us to be well taken care of. But some people got 3 and 4 houses. Some people got 3 and 4 cars. Some people, just and that's like the light end of it. Mm-hmm. But people are spending, and I'm not trying to police anybody's pockets, but I do have a problem with believing that is how we get free. Mm-hmm. People, yeah, you have millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and like, and you know. So I think, and I think for us as Black people, I can empathize, I can imagine, I can see the humanity in saying, I don't want to be broke anymore.
Yes.
Like, I actually really do think there's something human about Black people saying, well, of course I want to be a billionaire because then I can buy my mom this and I can, like, take care of these people there, da-da-da. And I think that's actually a really beautiful thought exercise. Like, every so often I do wonder, what would I do if I hit the lotto tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. You don't play, do you?
No, well, because I don't understand numbers. I don't understand numbers.
I actually, because people always say that they never play a day in their life.
I don't.
How you imagining something you ain't doing?
I don't understand the like whole, whatever. But I do imagine what it would feel like to have that much money at one time.
Mm.
And I'm like, dang, okay, if I had that much money at one time, I would forgive my loans, my partner's loans, everyone in my family, all their debt.
Yes.
I'm going to still have a whole bunch of money left. So what would I do with that? Like,
we trying to get, just, if you want to send your money to Candace Simpson or whatever to say. So one of the things that I know about you, that you're a PK, and it's not just on one side. Both your parents are pastors. You said, you're always a church girl, but what is it like? Like, did you see you coming, like, going to seminary? Like, let's talk about being a PK. Like, both mom and dad. And you have a brother, yes?
A brother and a sister.
And a sister. What do they do?
So my brother works at a college, and then my sister is a college student.
Okay.
But they're both the boss of me. So
Are you the middle child?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest,
yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And they're the boss of you.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Whatever they say, I'm like, okay, sure.
What is it to grow up with both parents in the church? Pressure of a PK, if any.
Well, so there was this time where I think no matter what the pastor does, I think because church is such a central space for us as Black people, that, it means something for us to have first family. Which, no matter what we do, no matter how we say, no, that's not what's happening, I think people do that. And so one time, there was somebody who was visiting the church, and it was me and a friend of mine, and my mom was like kind of taking us to the bathroom or something like that. And somebody visited, and they were like, oh, that's the pastor's daughter. And my mom, who does not play that, looked up in her very like gracious, compassionate way, was like, oh yes, have you met her friend? Like, there's 2 children here. You know what I mean? And I will never forget. Like, I can see it happening now because it was a moment of like, yes, people will do that naturally, and like we can say we're human beings. Everybody is a human being. We ought come to the communion table to like as human beings.
Yes.
I will say, I will say that.
Yep, think hard. You know what I'm saying? This does air.
Because both of my parents are professional talkers.
Professional talkers. I feel like that's coming from another vein.
Ooh, professional talkers. I mean,
that I may not understand.
Look. So when we got in trouble, because we kids do kid stuff. Mm-hmm. We actually dreaded the conversation. The conversation, the lecture was like, oh my God, like because I remember like ways that we had been, gathered in because we did something we weren't supposed to be doing, or we hurt somebody, or acted in ways that just were not right. And like the thing I dreaded, like I didn't dread physical violence because that didn't happen. What I dreaded was, dang, you're gonna be disappointed in me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think because that's their orientation to things, that like sometimes children don't get into things because they don't want to get caught. I learned to not do things because I didn't want to break their hearts. Like I didn't want to, still to this day, I do feel like because they are who they are, I can talk to them about anything.
That's beautiful.
And I'm grateful for it because I know that's not everybody's testimony. But yeah, PK. I mean, the greatest thing is people make sweet potato pies. So you get to get a little bit of that sweet potato pie. If the pastors, anytime, like there's this one woman who makes sweet potato pies for all the pastors. And whenever the sweet potato pie comes to the house, I get sweet potato pie. So
that's some benefit to being a preacher.
Right.
You ain't had the pies that she had.
Right, look. It's great. Delicious.
And she had plenty.
Yeah. Look.
So Candace, what is the thing that's ground you? What are your hopes and ritual practice that grounds you in your work and that continues to do the work that you do?
This is a very, very, very particular kind of Baptist Christian answer, but I do like to read my Bible. When I'm not preparing for a sermon, when I'm not preparing for a class, I like to read and I like to be transported to these stories, and I feel very comforted and also angry that I can relate to, for example, the story of Pharaoh making these people create bricks without straw. Just the pettiness. Why is it that why haven't we fixed that spirit that thousands of years ago people did that to vulnerable people, and now bricks without straw, or trying to make sense out of rents that or more, or I don't think I'll ever be able, well, let me not speak on it. Sometimes I feel like I will not be able to own a home in my own hometown.
Wow.
And that hurts. So I like to read those stories because it reminds me I'm not the first. And I also sprung for Disney Plus. So
it's okay.
Look, Hercules is a gospel. That's the fifth gospel. The muses, whatever the muses do.
That's the fifth gospel, she said.
Gospel. Oh my gosh. And they sang that.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and Hercules. Just in case you ain't catch that. I caught it real good, y'all. Come on, gospel synopsis.
It's so good. It's so good.
You're going to go have me watching Hercules.
I'm trying to tell you. Bless my soul. Hercules. Look, I love. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. It's so good. And so I like watching movies like that. And similarly, like the Bible, there are some movies from my childhood that when I was a kid, I loved them, didn't think critically about them. And now I see Peter Pan and some of the racist depictions in Peter Pan or Pinocchio, or even early kind of Mickey Mouse, and just weird racist stuff, gender stuff that's happening. And again, it's what do we do with these texts that are problematic or that present a problem to us? Do we not engage and then excuse ourselves from being able to relate to other people who watch these things because we so smart? Or do we watch them with a critical eye, read them with a critical eye, and then use our shared appreciation for a text to be a foundation for a relationship? And we don't have to like everything. I watched the Tyler Perry movie on Netflix. It was a mess. It was a mess. But there was a moment where all of us were watching it, and
I really want to get into that, but I really don't want to get into that. Listen, and I was and I sit with different circle of people, people who are diehard, and I love Tyler, I do, and I love the fact that he was able to be this black entrepreneur, came from the bottom New Orleans, and now you have your whole studio, right? That movie was I knew the end the moment I saw Felicia Rashad. I was like, she the one. Got me dropping my car. Tyler, you need a writer.
Like a writer's room.
Come on. We millennials, we can help you.
We need a writer's room.
Twist it up.
He was like, I did it myself. We know. We know you did it yourself.
We love you, Tyler. But you need other people in the room with you, boo.
Oh, that's good. You need other people in the room with you. Go ahead. Go ahead, daughter. Right.
Yeah. And other ritual practice. And hopes. What your hope is built on.
Nothing less. Nothing less. The people give me hope. Like, people always do this thing every so often where they're like, name your top 5, blah, blah, blah. Name your da-da-da-da-da. Like, we have this obsession with lists. Like, we want to categorize and, like, put people in these are the best preachers. These are the best teachers, best professors, best this, best that. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. What gives me hope is the people. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just moved by masses of people. So there was this action in New York where it was a coordinated effort of people across the 5 boroughs who were intentionally resisting the NYPD and the MTA's collusion with one another to further dispossess Black people, brown people, poor people, disabled people, and everyone else who is not the normative identity for whom these systems are constructed. Mm-hmm. So people did a fair strike. So they chained the gates open, and they put super glue in the swipe mechanisms, and they did a banner drop, and like they really showed up and showed out. Mm. There were in-person actions and demonstrations, and people were upset. And it wasn't just white people upset. It was everybody was upset.
Tell us what it is. I just had to Candace a piece of paper. I grabbed this from fishsandwicheheaven.com. Mm-hmm. Thought it was pretty dope as I enter into your website. If you could read that would be great.
We believe everyone should have a safe place to sleep every night. We believe everyone should have healthy and affordable food. We believe everyone should have a fun thing to do that brings joy. We believe that there's a lot more to believe. We believe that heaven is a revolution that can happen right here on earth. We shouldn't have to wait until the hereafter to be treated like human beings.
Did you create that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So is that your idea, your perception of heaven, what that looks like? Mm-hmm. Well, share more.
Well, I always have an agenda. Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't think that.
Yeah, I always have an agenda, and or an objective. As a teacher, I will say I always have an objective, and what I'm trying to do with Fish Sandwich Heaven is show people that there are ways to exist beyond capitalism. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying. On the low, I'm trying to introduce people to socialist, communist, anti-capitalist principles in ways that are organic to how we speak. Oh. So I don't. I think a lot of texts that are, the critical kind of part of the canon, they're not books that most people will find exciting, and maybe they will, but I know that, for example, when I go to Barnes & Noble and I look at what is the spirituality and faith section, Joel Osteen, all the Paulas, T.D. Jakes, like there's an agenda that wants to teach us how to be,
the type of Christian.
Yeah. And I don't believe, I think those sorts of values make us bad Christians. Like thinking that you could just pray your way out of it, think your way out of it, fortify yourself. And, this rugged individualism and he'll take you to it and he'll take you through it. And you're supposed to go through these storms. You're supposed to experience it. Like we don't need any more of that. It's killing us. Like, we are not well. And I want people to be able to imagine what does it look like, not just for you to be okay, for my family to be okay, which is what a lot of people peddle. That's their, like, you know, well, me and mine are going to be all right. But how do we think about everybody being okay? Even the people that you forget about. Like, the people who don't have homes, and you film yourself giving them $10 or $15. Like, what do we have to do to this world to make it so that is not an interaction that will happen? So that's part of, like, trying to build a manifesto of, like, how can we exist in a healthy, flourishing way that also is accessible language to all of us. Because, again, everyone is not picking up, you know, Marx. It's just not happening. For a good number of reasons. I mean, and everybody is not going to read Du Bois.
Yes.
They won't. There's a lot in that text. So, and if they do, I want them to be in a space where they can process it with other people. So,
Candace, thank you so much for coming and sitting and talking to us at TTYL or not. I hope you not only enjoyed your stay, but your time with us and chatting. We definitely have to get Candace back because I think there's just so much that we can learn from her. She's a wealth of knowledge. And I see why Leslie Callahan, my pastor, shout out Dr. Callahan, calls you her mentor. Like, y'all mentor each other, you know, baby boomer, Generation X, intergenerational, which is, I think, is a beautiful thing. Let the folks know, what are you doing, what's coming up, how you can be contacted, anything you want to share.
Well, so, of course, the easiest way to find things I'm up to is fishsandwicheaven.com. And I do not yet have an Instagram or a Twitter for Fish Sandwich Heaven, mostly because I'm not ready for... I can't manage several accounts.
Fact. It's not easy, y'all.
But I know. You're going through it. Like,
I am going through it. So my Instagram was actually a personal page, and I was like, you know what? I'm not putting my personal life on Instagram anymore. Right. And I really don't. So I'm just going to focus on TTY or Not and Neverland. And right now, TTY or Not is getting a lot of attention when Neverland is suffering a little bit. I'm praying for help, y'all. I mean, if y'all want to need an intern, you know, we get some grant writers, you know what I'm saying? I can pay you a little bit. Or just do it in goodness of your heart. Let's create heaven together on TTYL or Not. You know what? You're going to plug everything in.
Look, you got to you got to braid that thing down.
But go ahead. Anything else going on? Like, where can people find you? Like, where you at?
In my skin. When I jump out, you jump in. My dad always says that. Well, so I'm at Concord Baptist Church. My Twitter and my Instagram are Candy Cornball. I've had those names for at least 10 years, not changing them. And, you know, so on the contact page, there is a email submission form. And fun fact, I do voiceover work. So if you want me to read like scripture, a affirmation, a grocery list, I will do that.
Bedtime story, record it.
I will do that.
Shout out.
So, do personalized voice notes. Look, actually, you can tell the people that I would like to be cast as Angela Davis when the biopic comes out.
Yes.
Because I could pick this out.
Yes.
Okay. And
I can see it.
Look.
I can see it.
You see? And
get out of y'all.
I've read her work, so they don't have to do media training on me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Like, I get you. Like you're really a student of Angela Davis.
I'd be a cost-effective actress in this. So, you know, we'll just send that one on out.
All right. From your lips to God's ears.
Right.
And to the people out here in the media.
Just go on Twitter, tell them that I'm ready to be Angela Davis in the movie.
To support this platform, please consider giving. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Theology Talks You Like or Not.